The moment we begin to imagine this mystery, it feels like standing on the edge of something so vast, so unsettling, that even the most advanced minds at NASA struggled to fully articulate what they saw, because when the satellite cameras, high above Earth, silently orbiting at unimaginable speed, swept their lenses over the familiar curve of our planet, everything seemed ordinary at first, clouds drifting lazily, continents bathed in sunlight, the ocean shimmering like polished glass, until suddenly, across the vast expanse of the Earth's surface, a shadow began to appear, not the kind of shadow cast by clouds, storms, or even an eclipse, but something darker, sharper, and far more unexplainable, moving with such precision and weight that the scientists monitoring the feed felt their stomachs drop as though the planet itself had trembled, and in those first seconds they assumed it must be an error. Some glitch in the data stream, perhaps a digital smear from solar interference. But as they checked system after system, running diagnostics with shaking hands, the shadow only grew longer, stretching across the atmosphere like an invisible hand had placed a dark veil over Earth. And it was then that the chilling realization sank in. This was no glitch, no artifact of code, this was something real, something vast, moving silently above the Earth, leaving behind questions that no one could immediately answer. Because how could a satellite, designed to measure every shift in light, temperature, and position, mistake something of this scale? The shadow had geometry, clear edges, a sharp outline, almost as though it were being cast by an object of enormous structure hovering somewhere between Earth and space. And yet no known celestial body, no asteroid, no spacecraft, could account for it. And so the NASA team, caught between awe and dread, began rewinding the footage, frame by frame, and every frame only deepened the mystery. Because the shadow shifted in ways unnatural to physics, bending slightly, elongating, contracting, as though alive, almost like it had intent, like it was not simply a shadow but a presence, something that moved not with randomness but with awareness, and whispers spread across the monitoring station. What if it isn't a natural phenomenon at all? The thought alone was enough to freeze every mind in the room, because if it wasn't natural, then it had to be something else, artificial, deliberate, something watching. For hours the satellite feed was analyzed, cross-checked with data from other orbiters, from ground-based observatories, from international agencies, yet no other system picked up the same anomaly, as though the shadow had chosen only that single eye in the sky, only that one NASA satellite, to reveal itself to. And the strangeness didn't end there, because when they examined the path of the shadow across Earth's surface, it wasn't random, it passed directly over regions of human civilization, skipping vast deserts and empty oceans, almost as though scanning, inspecting, leaving a trail of questions in the minds of everyone who watched. Imagine the feeling, the vastness of space pressing in, the cold reality that something unknown had crossed between the familiar safety of our atmosphere and the emptiness beyond, and no one could explain what it was, where it came from, or what it wanted. Could it have been a fragment of a massive object? A hidden moon drifting closer than ever before? Or was it something more terrifying, something built by hands not of this earth, drifting silently, cloaked in darkness, revealing itself only in the outline of a shadow cast upon the world below? Scientists debated in hushed voices, their arguments circling around the same inescapable point. This shadow was too large, too defined, too intelligent in its movement to be ignored, and so they classified the data, sealing it from the public eye. Yet even as the official reports were locked away, rumors began to leak, whispers of a shadow no one could explain, a shadow that might one day return. And the question left behind was not simply what was it, but why did it choose to appear over Earth at all? Because somewhere in the darkness above us, something massive had passed by, silent, watching, and if it had the power to cloak itself in shadow once, who could say when it might return again, and what it might bring with it when it did? And in that instant, when the shadow's vast outline refused to match any known celestial body, scientists froze in disbelief, staring at their live feeds, trying to rationalize whether this was a system glitch or a phenomenon no human eye had ever captured before. And as they leaned closer into the streams of data pouring from the satellite's instruments, they realized with growing dread that this was no ordinary eclipse. No passing cloud, no comet or asteroid casting a fleeting veil over Earth, but something deliberate, structured, almost geometric in its spread, as though the darkness itself had been engineered, and as the world spun on its axis, the shadow seemed to move with intention, sliding across continents, one hemisphere at a time, leaving researchers frantically triangulating its origin while governments demanded immediate answers. Because what they were witnessing threatened not just the realm of science but the fragile sense of security humanity held about its place in the universe. And as pressure mounted, the satellite's high-resolution infrared sensors detected faint but undeniable fluctuations inside the heart of the shadow, pulses of energy that suggested an organized mechanism hidden within the darkness. Something alive, or at least powered. Something vast enough to bend light, and yet silent enough to have eluded telescopes for centuries. And whispers of classified transmissions began to circulate between agencies. Because if this object, this moving curtain of void, was controlled, then the question was no longer what, but who. And while world leaders debated secrecy versus disclosure, people on the ground began noticing subtle but eerie effects. Daylight dimming for minutes at unexpected hours, migratory birds swerving off course, radio frequencies warping in ways reminiscent of Cold War experiments. And as fear seeped into ordinary households, NASA's emergency team realized the shadow's trajectory wasn't random at all but aligned perfectly with major population centers, its movement almost choreographed. And with every passing hour, the evidence grew clearer that humanity was not simply observing a strange atmospheric event but was being observed in return, studied under the moving veil of an intelligence that had chosen Earth as its canvas. And as panic threatened to erupt worldwide, the final revelation struck like thunder. The shadow wasn't projected from space toward Earth, but rather, it was rising from Earth itself, an unknown origin deep below the oceans, unfurling upward like an immense, controlled signal to the cosmos, announcing not our fear but our existence. And as the satellite captured its last trembling frames before interference wiped its systems offline, the image burned into every scientist's mind was not of emptiness but of design, a colossal, structured silhouette that hinted Earth had never been alone. That perhaps we had always been watched from within, and now, the watcher had finally revealed itself.